Hello, I'm named Sandra, 35 years old, and I work in an office. Currently, I reside with my husband, Matthew, and his mother in their family home. Despite being married, I've found little joy in my relationship due to constant bullying from my mother-in-law, which never seems to improve. Matthew and I first met at work, where our companies were collaborators, leading us to frequently work on projects together. As we spent more time together, our relationship blossomed, and we began to go out for meals and dates. After dating for a year, Matthew proposed, and we got married when I was 32. Initially, our marriage was blissful. It was just the two of us, and I had yet to discover Matthew's true nature. We both had lucrative careers, allowing us to enjoy luxurious weekends, complete with trips and gourmet dining. I imagined a future filled with wonderful memories. However, our circumstances shifted dramatically 3 years after our marriage when Matthew's father fell ill and died unexpectedly. Overcome with grief, Matthew suggested we should consider moving in with his mother. I was taken aback by the suggestion. Although I had sympathy for my mother-in-law, we had been married for just 3 years and I cherished our independence as a couple. In the wake of these events, my relationship with my mother-in-law deteriorated. Her treatment towards me grew increasingly harsh, making our living situation unbearable. In a surprising turn of events, she handed me divorce papers, stating it would be best for everyone if Matthew and I separated. Confused and distraught, I decided to take a break and went to stay with my parents for a month to gather my thoughts and seek advice from my father. During my stay, I took the difficult step of filing for divorce. My decision was clear, but it wasn't long before my mother-in-law began calling me incessantly, pleading for forgiveness and admitting her mistakes. This period of my life was incredibly challenging, forcing me to reevaluate my relationships and the direction of my happiness. As I navigated these turbulent waters, I learned the importance of setting boundaries and prioritizing my well-being in the face of familial pressures. My husband Matthew expressed a strong desire to stay close to his mother after his father passed away, especially since he is her only son. He felt a deep responsibility to care for her. I'm her only son, so I feel like I need to take care of her as much as I can, he told me. This sense of duty was intensified by his regret over not being more attentive to his father before he died. Watching Matthew so affected by his father's death, I felt compelled to support him, despite having reservations about the decision to move in with his mother. We soon moved into my mother-in-law's house, and upon our arrival, she expressed her relief. "It's good of you to be here," she said warmly to Matthew, who reassured her, "Mom, you don't have to worry anymore now that we're here." Her response was grateful. "Thank you, dear. I'll take care of you both from now on." Matthew appreciated her words, but I sensed a chill in the air when it came to me. After settling in, Matthew and I joined my mother-in-law in the living room where she had prepared some treats from her favorite bakery, featuring her beloved almond paste. Matthew's eyes lit up with childlike glee as he praised the treats, and I couldn't help but share in his joy momentarily. However, the atmosphere shifted when my mother-in-law turned to me with a frosty expression, asking, "Sandra, are you all right? Why do you look so lost?" She then briskly suggested we make some coffee to go with the pastries. As I fumbled to find where things were kept, she remarked snidely, "Where are the coffee pots and things? You're so useless, aren't you?" She indicated a cluttered shelf, adding, "Oh, geez, they're over there where the wife stuff is," her tone dismissive as she cluttered things further while speaking. Her comment stung, especially since it was unfounded. I had never shirked from helping out, but she seemed determined to paint me otherwise. This interaction was a stark reminder of the challenging dynamics within the house, reinforcing my doubts about our decision to move in. Before my husband and I moved in with his mother, we often visited her place. Whenever I tried to help around the house, she'd insist, "No need, just sit down," effectively barring me from entering the kitchen. It seemed she had specific ways she liked things done and didn't want anyone disrupting her system. Eventually, I stopped offering to help, thinking it would ease the tension. However, this didn't improve the situation. She would still snap at me unexpectedly, which felt quite unfair. One time, after a particularly sharp rebuke from her, she fixed me with a stern gaze and snapped, "What's with that look? Do you have a problem?" I didn't want to escalate the conflict by responding directly, so I silently hoped my husband would intervene. I glanced over at him, hoping for some support, but he was absorbed in his phone, seemingly oblivious to the discomfort his mother was causing me. It was frustrating and hurtful that he didn't seem to notice, let alone address the situation. This tension was only the beginning of our challenging living arrangement. Almost immediately after moving in, the issues started to surface more frequently. One morning, she barged into our room exclaiming, "Hey, Sandra, why are you still sleeping in?" I glanced at my phone. It was only 6 a.m. I replied, slightly confused, "It's only 6 in the morning, Mother." Unfazed, she retorted, "So what? You should be up making breakfast and Matthew's lunch. And don't forget, you're supposed to clean the bathroom every day." Her expectations startled me. Typically, I didn't prepare lunch for my husband, as we often skipped breakfast because we weren't morning eaters. Additionally, cleaning the bathroom before heading to work was impractical. It was simply too exhausting. The demands of waking up early to complete all these tasks seemed unreasonable and overwhelming. As I hesitated to respond to my mother-in-law's early morning demands, she grew increasingly irritated, questioning my capabilities and upbringing. "Why are you just standing there? Hurry up! What kind of upbringing did you have to become so useless?" Her harsh words cut deep, fueling a mix of anger and determination within me. In response, I decided to meet her expectations head-on. From then on, I began waking up at 6 a.m. daily, preparing not only basic meals but also more elaborate dishes for breakfast and lunch for both my husband and myself. I also made sure the bathroom was impeccably clean. To my surprise, I found a sort of satisfaction in keeping the bathroom spotless, and it felt good to maintain a clean space. My husband noticed my efforts and often expressed his gratitude for the meals and the cleanliness. However, my mother-in-law's attitude did not improve with my increased efforts. Instead, her demands escalated. One day she would crave Japanese cuisine, only to switch to French the next, insisting on dishes like homemade pizza and freshly cooked pasta, paired with red wine from upscale shops. These requests were delivered as if each meal were for a special occasion, yet they were becoming a daily expectation. The most frustrating aspect was that my husband seemed to always side with her, instructing me to adhere strictly to his mother's wishes. "Make sure you do it exactly how my mom wants," he'd say, without offering to help. He completely disengaged from the tasks, leaving everything up to me. Consequently, our precious days off were consumed with preparing elaborate dinners for his mother. Moreover, she continued to critique my life choices relentlessly. "You're a wife. Why are you still working? You should be at home supporting your husband, plus you're getting older, and the time to have children is running out. Do you realize you're almost worthless?" she would assert daily. Her words were not only demanding but deeply hurtful, causing me to reflect on her character and wonder about the kind of upbringing that shaped such a harsh personality. Her constant criticisms made me question the sustainability of living under constant scrutiny and pressure. One particularly stressful day, compounded by work and ongoing tensions with my mother-in-law, my husband confronted me with an accusation. "My mom says you're neglecting the housework. Is that true? You never listen to me and always act defiantly. I used to appreciate the lunches you made every day, but now it's all frozen food. Do you believe what your mom says?" Of course, I believe her. Why wouldn't I? Are you suggesting my mom is lying? You're acting terribly as a wife. Can't you fulfill your role properly? He snapped at me, his tone sharp and accusatory. I was livid at his lack of understanding and support. "What are you talking about? Just look for yourself. I make homemade lunches, clean, do laundry, and cook dinner every day," I protested, my frustration mounting. "I'm telling you to stop lying. What Mom says is true," Matthew retorted, dismissing my efforts blatantly. "You're acting crazy. You mama's boy, what are you even saying? You never believe me or help me with anything? What exactly do you want me to do? You're such a nuisance, I retorted, the argument escalating quickly. Matthew's face flushed with anger as he responded, the exchange marking a significant deterioration in our relationship. From that day forward, the situation at home grew even more challenging. Whenever my mother-in-law criticized or harassed me, Matthew began to echo her insults. Hey, is dinner ready? I just got home. Hurry up, my husband demanded one evening as soon as he walked through the door. You're so slow and useless, my mother-in-law added, her words like daggers. While they both berated me, I muttered under my breath, You're both failures, so it's no surprise. Exhausted and feeling isolated, I was left behind as they decided to go out to eat together. Never mind, let's just go out to eat together, my husband suggested abruptly. That sounds good, let's go, my mother-in-law agreed enthusiastically. As they left, I was excluded completely from the outing, a clear sign of how disconnected I had become from what was supposed to be my family. Each day, I endured insults and belittlement from both of them, pushing me to question the viability of staying in such a marriage. Was enduring this relentless negativity worth it? That's when life handed me an unexpected chance to change everything. As I pondered this new opportunity, I realized I didn't have to endure the toxic environment with my husband and mother-in-law any longer. Their usual taunts continued unabated. You're worthless as a daughter-in-law. I can't fathom how my son ended up marrying you, my mother-in-law scolded, with my husband smirking alongside her. Seizing the moment, I stood up, my resolve firm. I'm going back to my parents' house for a month, I announced. They both stared at me, their faces a mix of surprise and anger. What about the house? What if there's a fire? My husband exclaimed in panic. You're being incredibly irresponsible. If you're leaving, then divorce my son, my mother-in-law shouted, her anger palpable as she yanked a drawer open and pulled out divorce papers, thrusting them at me. Go ahead, sign them, she challenged. Oh, Mom, you're prepared for this, my husband remarked, clearly surprised. That's right, you have no choice but to obey us. If you don't like it, then get a divorce. This is a convenient situation, my mother-in-law asserted, convinced of her control. Fine, let's get divorced then, I responded decisively, surprising them both. Their eyes widened in shock at my firm stance, but I ignored their reactions and began filling out the divorce papers. I'm done with my part, so please leave quickly, I told them, my voice steady. My husband blinked in disbelief, unable to reconcile the woman standing before him with the one he thought he could easily manipulate. Was that earlier just a bluff? That was lame, he muttered, unable to grasp the reality that I was truly reclaiming my life and independence. When I insisted on finalizing the divorce, Matthew's demeanor shifted dramatically. He glared at me sharply. Don't mess around, I'm serious, I asserted, my resolve firm. Without another word, Matthew snatched the divorce papers from my hands and swiftly filled in his section. He slammed the papers down on the table. Is this good enough? He asked, his tone bitter. Even if you want to take it back, it's too late. Oh well, this means it's over for you too, he declared, trying to mask his dismay with bravado. Laughing coldly, my mother-in-law chimed in my heart, it's over for you guys. But I thought to myself, it's truly over for you as soon as I leave. With no further delay, I left my in-laws' house and immediately submitted the divorce papers. I then returned to my parents' house and recounted everything to my father, who was deeply shocked and promised to support me in whatever actions were necessary. A month later, my phone was inundated with calls from my mother-in-law. Hello, you. What do you want? I answered, my tone icy. We're strangers now. Please don't say that. Matthew and I are in a difficult situation, she pleaded. Her words dripped with insincerity, and I replied curtly, Oh, really? That must be tough for you. Her response was predictably sarcastic. I haven't said anything yet. I'd rather end this call. Can I hang up? I pressed, eager to disconnect. Wait, I have a favor to ask. Can you talk to your father? She implored, her voice desperate. Why should I after everything you and Matthew put me through? I shot back. I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize that your father's company is an important business partner of the company Matthew works for, she explained, trying to mend bridges. It turned out that my father ran a successful company that had business dealings with Matthew's company. We had probably discussed this before getting married, but at that time, my father-in-law was still alive, and perhaps my mother-in-law hadn't seen the need to involve herself in those discussions. As for Matthew, it was strange he didn't remember, but perhaps he had forgotten while siding with his mother and criticizing me. When my father decided to sever the business dealings, Matthew's company offered to continue the contract by letting go of Matthew instead, resulting in his job loss. This turn of events underscored the consequences of their actions and the intertwined fates that my departure had set in motion. As it turned out, Matthew had ambitious plans to remodel our family home in anticipation of us living together for the long term. To finance these renovations, he had taken out a substantial loan. However, with his recent unemployment, managing the loan repayments became nearly impossible. Up until our divorce, I had been contributing my fair share to our living expenses as a company employee, which helped us keep financially afloat. Now, with the divorce finalized, Matthew and my mother-in-law found themselves in a precarious situation. "Why did you feel the need to show off by remodeling the house, Matthew? You're so proud, just like your mother," I couldn't help but think. Amidst their financial turmoil, my mother-in-law reached out, her voice desperate. "Please help me," she pleaded. "I apologize for my mistakes," she added, her tone weak, devoid of the usual defiance. "I'm sorry, but I can't forgive you for what you've done," I responded firmly. "If you're expecting me to help you, it's pointless. Instead, focus on finding a job, even if it's temporary. As for me, this conversation is a waste of time, so I'm ending it now." After ending the call, I took the definitive step of blocking their numbers. Later, I learned that Matthew and his mother could not keep up with the mortgage payments and were forced to sell the house. It was a relatively new house, one that could have comfortably supported my mother-in-law through her retirement. It's a shame that their poor financial management and unnecessary extravagance led to such a waste. They ended up relocating to an apartment on an island somewhere, where my ex-husband now works part-time. This drastic change in their circumstances highlighted the consequences of their actions and the impact of our severed ties. While they now depend on my mother-in-law's pension to make ends meet, I've been preparing for a significant change in my own life. Instead of renting a new place right away, I decided to stay with my parents until my departure. This time with them is precious to me, and I intend to cherish every moment until I move overseas. I'm filled with excitement and hope about starting anew in a different country. Despite the past difficulties with my ex-husband and mother-in-law, I remain optimistic about what the future holds. It's puzzling why they treated me poorly, but I'm relieved to have severed those ties. Perhaps in this new chapter abroad, I might even meet a wonderful partner and explore the possibility of an international marriage. I genuinely wish happiness for my ex-husband and mother-in-law in their future endeavors, whatever they may be. Thank you for following my story, and if you found it engaging, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm looking forward to sharing more updates and stories with you as I embark on this exciting journey.